All right, everybody, welcome in to Beneath the Waves. My name is Matt, and we are here with another edition of our Icebreaker series. We're bringing people from the hockey community, not just Kraken related, to talk all sorts of things hockey. I am joined once again by everyone's favorite meme creator, tweet poster, just handsome bald man, Derek.
Hello.
I ran out of adjectives three away.
Yeah, that sums it up. I don't have anything to say.
I mean, now you're getting all rosy in the cheeks. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I've just been chilling. Really excited about the last video that we made. It was a banger, and
Yeah.
I think this one will be too. So I'm really pumped.
All right. As I said in Icebreaker, so we bring on different people not from our Beneath the Waves circle to come talk about other things. And we are once again bringing in my good pal Britton Gray, who was on the last one. He is the sports reporter for Rawlco Radio here in Saskatchewan. Britton Gray, how are you doing?
Not bad. Sorry if you could hear me chewing during your intro there. I didn't realize we were just getting right into it and I tossed some candy in. So that's what I was munching on to start this video.
What candy was it though?
It's some gummy nerds sours.
There we go. We got our first product placement. I'll send the letter in the mail, see if we can get a sponsorship deal.
Yeah.
So the reason we're having Britton on today is he has covered many things hockey related here in our home province of Saskatchewan. So we are calling this one the Prairie Prospects, where we're going to talk about two specific Kraken prospects who came through or from rather the Prairies. Starting off with our most recent number one round draft pick, Berkly Catton, who was drafted eighth overall this year. Kind of took all of us by surprise. That was our first live stream. We're all like defenseman, defenseman, defenseman. And we were kind of taken aback. Derek, I'll talk to you in a little bit about how we're feeling now because I think that's come around a little bit. But he is a Prairie boy. He was born just up the road from us up in Saskatoon, played for the Spokane Chiefs. In his 140 games there, he had 78 goals and 175 points. So, Britton, while you didn't directly cover Mr. Catton because he is out in Spokane, do you have some thoughts, feelings on what his outlook looks like?
Yeah, and played grew up in Saskatoon, so also didn't really get a chance to cover that too. But I did get a cover. There's a kid in Regina right now, Maddox Schultz. He played with the under 18 Pack Canadians this year. He's 13. Apparently, Berkly Catton did that same feat out in Saskatoon to be 13 years old and playing with 18-year-olds. That's pretty crazy to think about. The fact that you're that good and that coaches want to get you out there. It's goes to show the talent this kid's had for a while. Unfortunately, played in the States. Don't get to see them too often here play against the Pats and everything. But from everything I've seen and what I've heard from people about him, he's a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Like, I know, surprised that he went there because you're expecting defensemen. I'm surprised Berkly was still on the board when the Kraken picked because I think he's that good of a player. He can develop into an all-around guy and maybe eventually 80 to 90 points per season. Maybe that's what he can develop into because he's that good, maybe more. Well, we'll see. But he can do a little bit of everything. Very offensive minded. And what he did this year, like, well, he just came behind Jagger Firkus in the scoring race, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But he's younger than Jagger. He's only 18. To do the points he did as an 18-year-old in the WHL, which is often regarded as a more defensive league, is pretty crazy when you think about it. So I'm interested to see how he performs. I think he was the highest rated Saskatchewan prospect in this past draft. I thought he would go higher. Went to number 8 there, and so we'll see how he develops. So I think it's someone Seattle should be very excited about getting.
Being about 2 months or so later, Derek, how's your Catton stance maybe shifted since then when we were gobsmacked and you were just shocked?
No, it's the worst pick of all. No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely, I've come full circle all the way around. I was in denial for a couple weeks, but I actually remembered that I saw him in person one time against the Thunderbirds, and I remember telling my buddy that I was there with. I don't follow the WHL as much as I
Mhm.
used to, and I was just like, that guy is insane. That guy's definitely NHL. I looked him up after and was like, oh, okay, he's getting drafted this year. Um, what impresses me about him and why I think he's so special, being a 13-year-old and playing against 18-year-olds, they got a bunch of size on you. They have to,
Mhm.
like, just biological puberty, like they're huge, right, compared to a 13-year-old. So I think that up until the WHL, he's learned how to maneuver on his edges, on how to play smart, how to set up plays where he's not going to feel the brunt of, these massive 18-year-olds. So I think that's really a good sign for him coming into the league because he is a smaller guy. So yeah, I'm really excited about him.
Yeah, Berkly, another thing kind of about him, like I said, he can kind of do a little bit of everything, which is what you want to see out of that. And he's underrated maybe for what he did and how good he was, because unfortunately in the grand scheme of Hockey Canada, the WHL kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit, especially when it comes to World Junior selection camps. There's a little, I don't know if it's a joke, but sometimes we feel there's a Western bias when they pick it's a lot of Ontario guys, a lot of Quebec guys. Not a lot. Like, I think this past year, a prime example is Firkus, who was leading the entire Canadian Hockey League in scoring, doesn't get invited to the Team Canada. There's a little bit of bias playing out in WHL. You don't get that kind of international, national spotlight sometimes. I think he should have been on Team Canada, as well as some other guys. So probably a steal for the Kraken that he fell this into their arms.
We also want to talk about Firkus here. Mm-hmm. In his WHL career, he had 230 games played, 144 goals, and 310 points. If that number sounds familiar, it's because last video we said Eberle had 310 points in his career, and he had his number retired by the Regina Pats. So I think there's no doubt that Moose Jaw will be retiring Firkus's number. He was drafted 35th overall in 2022 by the Kraken. He was Player of the Year. There are concerns for his NHL production, similar to Catton, based on his size, because he and Catton are both exactly 5'11" and exactly 165, because no one lies about their height or weight. So yeah, just interested to what you think about Firkus, and then maybe more largely what you think about undersized players and if they're just doomed or if they can adapt and be good at the NHL level.
Let's just talk about Firkus as a whole. It's been fun to watch him in Moose Jaw recently. I didn't cover him a lot during the regular season, but come playoffs, that's been a really good team they've had out there. And so I've got a chance to go out there and kind of cover them as they've been locked in battles with the Saskatoon Blades. They of course win the Ed Chino's Cup this year, first time ever in franchise history. And Firkus was a key part of that. There's no denying that. His shot is crazy. Like, it's one of the best shots I've seen in the WHL from a player. He can score at will. The thing with him, though, was he the reason for all that, or was it because he was playing with a Braden Jagger, a Denton Matejchuk, who, you talk about guys passing the eye test, Denton Matejchuk was the best player out there on the ice day in and day out as a defenseman. He is going to be a special NHL talent because his points, pretty much 40 more points this year. What led to that? It was him playing on a really good team. I really like the pick, but I do get why there's some concern with him, because he doesn't come with that kind of built-in hype. As a kid, he was taken the fourth round in the WHL draft, never very highly regarded. He's a great scorer. Can he develop? Can he become more of a passer? Can he develop into more of a defensive player? That's what we have to see from him as he takes this next step. I'd like to see him do it. I'm cheering for him. Super nice guy. The times I've gotten to talk to him, always willing to talk. So I'm cheering for him, but we'll see. In terms of undersized players, admittedly, it doesn't matter as much anymore. 15, 20 years ago, let's be honest, Firkus, Catton might not get drafted just because the idea around size has shifted. But there's still concern, because you're all of a sudden 21, 22, playing against 30-year-old men. You're playing against fully grown adults. And you kind of have to learn to deal with that, because Firkus, you're against 20-year-olds, but you're still developing at 20 for some guys. Some guys still you have to put on the muscle mass as you make the jump. You have to become a little bit of a better skater out there. Can Firkus do that? That's why he goes in the second round. Berkly goes in the first round because he's a little bit more well-rounded. His skating's a little bit more refined. I think that, like, Connor Bedard's a prime example. He's smaller than both of those guys, but there's never a concern about his size because his hockey IQ is through the roof, and his skating ability is top notch. He still got hit. He took a big elbow to the face, missed some time, came back, wore the fish bubble or the fish bowl, turned into one of the best players down the stretch with the fish bowl on. So hey, good for Connor, but I don't think it matters as much anymore, the size, but there is a concern because guys do have to learn to play differently. And can he develop his game? A good example is Sam Steele, who used to play with the Regina Pats. He was a very good junior player, not overly big, very good, highly drafted, first or second round. Doesn't really turn into the player people expected, but now he's carved himself out a role as a third, fourth liner. He's going to play in the NHL for 10 plus years because he's found his role and he's excelling at it. He had to change his game. I'm not saying these guys will have to, but smaller guys sometimes do.
One other thing we wanted to pick your brain on is in your time covering WHL minor hockey here in Saskatchewan, is if you had any particularly memorable experiences, things that stood out to you, maybe a favorite moment of coverage that you've done.
There's a few kind of for different things. The Memorial Cup run by the Regina Pats when they hosted, because it was in Regina. That was a team not a lot of people had high expectations for. They lost out in the first or second round of playoffs that year. They just get in because they're hosting. But it was fun to watch them go on the run with a 16-year-old goalie who had to kind of get thrust into the starting job due to injuries. They make it all the way to the finals. They just run into a team that has Noah Dobson and Robert Thomas on it out of Quebec. Like, very good players, couldn't keep up. That was fun, just the whole atmosphere around the Mem Cup and being in the final in Regina. That was an exciting atmosphere. And then one of the weirder ones that kind of had to come out due to the pandemic was covering the WHL hub, where during the COVID season, they come back, there's no fans. They play 40 games just between 5 teams, just the one division in Regina. But that's also where you first saw Connor Bedard. And Connor Bedard, as a 15-year-old, was the best player on the ice with 20-year-olds out there, with NHL drafted guys out there. It was special to see him kind of then, to see him grow, and now see him in the NHL because he was all around A-plus great kid. Connor Bedard absolutely did not have to answer questions all the time, would do it anyway, and would do it for a team that struggled. And a team that he really had to almost put on his back. There was a few other good players, Tanner Howe being one of them, who got drafted this past season, but he really had to put that team on his shoulders, and kind of watching Bedard's junior career in full was really special to do, because we all predict, I'm not going to say he's going to reach Connor McDavid status, because Connor McDavid's the best player I've ever seen play, but he definitely has that kind of potential.
Well, we greatly appreciate you coming on through for the Prairie Prospects edition of the Icebreakers. And again, our friend of the show, the inaugural friend of the show, Britton Gray. Britton, do you want to let people know where they can find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called at this point, at Britton Gray, just my name. CJME.com, CKOM.com. That's where my articles get posted. A little rider-centric right now with CFL season, but eventually junior hockey will get back to that.
Awesome, good stuff. And Derek, why don't you let the people know where they can find us?
BTWSEA on every single platform. TikTok, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, BTWSEA.
And the most important one he said in there is, if you're watching this right now, that means you are watching it on YouTube. Give us a hand, help us out, hit the sub button, hit the like button, ring the bell if you do subscribe. We are going to be back in less than a month when puck drops on the regular season, and we are going to be live streaming as many games as we possibly can. Isabel, you want to know when we have that breaking news segment come out, so you can know what's going on. So for Derek, for Britton, I am Matt. This has been Icebreakers. We appreciate you hanging out, and we will see you next time.